Good morning. Today's hot topic is about every Indian is excited about seeing the new parliamentary building. We also share all your excitement. I'm also excited. It's a good, uh, in a good democracy, we all need um, some buildings, isn't it? Not so anymore. Virtually, it can be done. But we think um, buildings are more important than other things. So how come? What are the countries that have got democracy? So many, but there is one bypassing lane for democracies. So what people do, what the legislatures or parliamentarians do in a parliamentary building. Um, so for that answer, they are discussing bills, isn't it? So it's not about, so there's a big difference between doing what the acts and bills and rules are, that is the executive branch. For executive branch to be active, they have to strictly follow rules, regulations, and they have to do whatever is assigned to them. Delegate what are the executive branches, ministries under them, and even we hue and cry about the IT rates and other things, CBI, all those things, or executive branch, they have to do what is expected of them. What is expected of them is in the rule book. The rules are from the acts enacted, bills. For acts to be enacted, there should be bills. So the bills have to be there initially. So the constitution is uh, the driving principle for any country's uh, action on a daily basis, what we call it. It's a country is live because of its rules and regulations. That's how all the countries in the world work. Now comes the democratic part of it. So if uh, some changes have to occur in the daily working or anything new comes up, how do we change it? So the ways of changing as far as a country is concerned is through bills. The bills are normally sponsored by, brought in by the ruling party, and there will be discussion before bringing in a bill and even formulating bill. There can be multi-party. So they got um, they discuss in another smaller group, and then they recommend here and before consideration. All those things are inbuilt mechanism for democracy. What democracy is? Any rule already there, it has to be changed, or any new thing has to come in, it has to be. But what about the executive? Executive power, what is expected of the government uh, who is holding the ruling duty is to maintain rules and regulations very clearly, without distinction, without favoritism. That is the duty of the government at the helm of affairs. Is that happening in every country? Uh, why it happens in few countries and not in many other countries? Just because there is a problem of favoritism, one. Second, fear of the ruling people. So people won't even raise voices. Who is to raise voices? People don't have the guts or time or uh, know how to raise the voices. That's why the parliament or legislature is there. They form into opposition and ruling party. Whatever ruling party wants to bring in, it has to be discussed in parliament, and then the opposition, whether whatever opposition says goes into a bill or not, whether the bill is amended according to their wishes is not, it's irrelevant. They pinpoint the good things or bad things. Normally, opposition thing, they have to point out all the problem so that we know. So this is the legislature, this is the parliamentary proceedings. So any new changes, it has to be brought through that is the main job of parliament. For that to happen, any bill, anything has to be discussed. Is it happening in every country? There's a problem there, I tell you. In most of the countries, except 3, it's all bills have to be passed through the parliament. Only in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, the old viceroys, they were ruling the British, through, now remote management was there at that time. So Britishers ruled from wherever they were sitting, and Indian viceroys used to rule the country. They create loopholes everywhere. So what they did was they brought in a side way to pass a parliamentary bill. What is that? Ordinance route. Ordinance route is the government at the helm of affairs at the time. They don't need to go to the parliament to discuss an issue. They immediately bring a bill without discussing with anybody, and then within certain period they have to. So it becomes a law at that time, immediate. So that circumstantious route is available only in 3 of the countries: India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And Indian government, whoever was ruling, whether it's a Congress one or is a UDA or UPA, this one, BJP rule government or Congress rule government, immaterial. They all brought in ordinances. The one thing very clear about more, so they just bring in, it has to be discussed in the next session. So it's in the interest of the government, not even bring in a session so that the ordinance, whatever purpose they bring in, it can go on for longer period. But this particular government is very firm about ordinances. Once it promulgated an ordinance, it wants it to be passed. So immediately session, without even discussing anything, it rushed the bill in the form of bill. That ordinance is rushed through. It is not giving voices for the opposition to discuss or going for the committee stages. So it's not happening. So less and less of democratic discussion happening even in parliament or legislature if it is a state government. Then only the question comes in here. So if more and more work allotted for a democratic process is happening through ordinances and other means. What is the need for strengthening the building structure? There are two things. One is Parliament has to sit and discuss. When Parliament sits, the members have to face each other. Always there is a problem, one way or the other, they abstain and fight going on. These things, if it is done in a Zoom conference, it's much quicker, much easier than sitting and facing people. The location-based structures, the location-based any democratic structure is already weakened, because whoever is in majority takes over and they silence the people who are in minority. So opposition is always, the numbers are less. So, but if it is virtual or if it is in a ballot-like state, everything is put in a referendum type of bill and people, the MPs vote online. That could be better way, easier way than this. People don't allow the other opposition. How many, which parties allowed the opposition to discuss and express their opinion? Not many. So democracy, as as in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, has a very, very, very weak point in ordinances, and that is sustained by successive government. This particular government is very adamant to go to that route, and too many ordinances came, and that's where the opposition also feel so they are sidelined or something. When they were doing at that time, they didn't understand that. But the opposition is doing that, they realize that. So less and less of democratic duty is done in parliaments. So first, if they have to be democratic, they have to reconsider the ordinance routes. That only will strengthen the parliament buildings, not the mere parliament buildings. So there are only 3 parliament. This also, see, in the world that permit the ordinance route, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. The practice in India was adopted by the Government of India Act 1935, where the Viceroy could do as he pleased. In every other country, Parliament has to be convened in order to get a law passed. So along with the Parliament, new opening of the Parliament building, if the Prime Minister announces that this ordinance route will be abolished, then it will strengthen the parliamentary democracy. Otherwise, it's just a sham of a democracy. So anything can be done without going to the parliament, without discussion, without going to the committee stage, and the executives are empowered to take on the opposition by having cases in IT, enforcement, CBI, now defamation, all those things here are possible, and suppression of opposition. And where is democracy then? Where is the building for it? So the total has to be. And what about we vote parliamentarians? They go to the parliament, and the anti defection bill also, it's very, very tricky one. So do we want our parliamentarians to be like a goat, just nodding whatever the party is saying, or do they need to always uh, pass bills without even discussion, or do they don't have any other opinion about any bill, only one person decides about it or a committee decides about it? What are the other parliamentarians, even the ruling party MPs, is their duty is just to support the bill and appreciate and praise the prime minister of the day? Where is open discussion? If the MP has a difference of opinion in on a bill, if he expresses that, so there are, whips, whips are there. So he has to vote on the basis of the government uh, whip. So it's like a number. I mean, I just can't understand why we need parliamentary, because they can't do anything. Whatever the party says, they have to do. In that case, they are like, goats. Why there can't be any discussion about a bill, even if like Subramaniam Swami, Dr. Subramaniam Swami sir, he wanted to raise certain point. He will say something is good, something bad. So why other MPs are not doing that? They fear the authority. They fear that if they say something, the party command may misconstrue that. Not only that, the rules of defection and whips are also preventing them from. So all these things have to be removed if we really want a good democracy, fair discussion to happen in parliament. Otherwise, what is the use of just a building? It's just a building, that's all.